Hey guys, welcome into the channel. Today we're going to be reviewing episode 3 of Big Brother 2. Feel free, if you didn't check out the episode reviews of episode 1 and 2, maybe go back, check those out. But now today we're going to be reviewing episode 3. Episode 3 was another really good one. In fact, I would say out of the first 3 episodes, it was probably my favorite thus far. And the big reason is because I kind of think of this episode as the birth of Dr. Will. This is the first episode where Will is featured really in any capacity whatsoever. The first 2 episodes, he was relatively invisible. There was a lot of Boogie stuff, but not much Dr. Will stuff. But basically, the episode starts like with Nicole's reaction to being nominated. What was it? The episode before? Yeah, episode 2. She was nominated with Cheryl. She tells Hardy, she's kind of going on with Hardy about how if she had played the whipped cream game, which I had referenced in episode 2, the game in the hot tub with all the younger couples or the younger singles, I guess you should say, and the whole game of the girls were putting the whipped creams or the strawberries with whipped cream in their mouth, and the guys were going around the hot tub, kind of taking the strawberry out of each other's mouths, and so basically it was this big kissing. It's a game for younger singles in their 20s, not a game designed for older people, particularly older married people. And again, Nicole had sat out of that. Some people had made comments about how she was ostracizing herself from the group and how it could hurt her down the line. But she basically tells Hardy that because she did not participate in that game, that's a big reason why she's on the block. She kind of makes reference to the fact that if she had joined in that game, the situation would be different. She would not be nominated right now. Thought to myself, is that true? And I'm going to say I don't believe it is. Now, I do believe that, let's say she did go in and play that game and she contributes in terms of what Boogie and Will and Justin and these other guys would have wanted, in terms of playing that game with them, being flirtatious with them and things of that nature. I think it wouldn't have hurt her stock in the house. It possibly could have kept her from being put on the block. But I got to say, most likely not. She was not put on the block because she was ostracizing herself from the group or because she wasn't making out with guys or, being slutty in the house. She was being nominated because she was being pushy, argumentative, and just having at all times to throw her 2 cents in on every conversation. Just, she was a total bitch, basically, the first few days. And that's why she was being nominated, not because she wasn't being their little plaything, as she referenced during the episode. So I don't believe she was accurate there. As I've said in the first couple reviews, I do think Nicole has fairly good self-awareness, but I don't agree with that statement that she made. Then we have at least that I can, as far as I can remember, the first real reference to Chilltown, plus Shannon and Justin. Those 4 kind of get lumped together in this episode. We have Nicole. She's basically trying to rally the troops, trying to rally the Hardys, the Kents, the Bunkies, the Kristas, those kind of people, the Monicas, to basically vote out Cheryl. And obviously, Cheryl's a person that everyone likes, everyone gets along with, everyone respects, which is why Bunky decided to put her on the block against, against Nicole. But the fact of the matter is that they're not necessarily trying to, or I guess you should say the group is not trying to necessarily get Cheryl voted out because they don't like Cheryl. Again, they do like her. But by voting her out, you're taking a shot at Will, at Boogie, at Shannon, so at Chilltown. So a vote against Cheryl is a vote against Chilltown, not necessarily a vote against Cheryl. And then obviously they're going on, and this is the first time really it was referenced. This is kind of one of the things with this early seasons, or some of the early seasons, particularly this one. The editing in certain areas isn't always the best. There had been no problems with Will from other housemates the first couple episodes. Now all of a sudden this episode, he was hated by nearly everyone. And everyone's pretty much saying they want to target Will next week. The next person says they want to target Will next week, and so on and so forth. So he's really becoming a villain in the eyes of most in the house at this point. Then we have a great DR from Kent. I wanted to jot this one down because, again, I've told you guys I like Kent. I think he adds a lot to the show. And he makes a great comment in the DR. He says, basically the quote is, some guys think they're running this game, kind of in reference to Boogie. Also, I think Will, but particularly Boogie since he was HOH. But he says, so some of the guys think they're running this game, but it may not be, the game may not be, or may not appear to be what it seems, basically is what he's saying. And it's so true what he said there. I think to Boogie, to Will, particularly the Boogie though, he views this game as almost like it's a popularity contest. Well, Cheryl's more popular than Nicole, so Nicole's going to get voted out. And as we found out over the years in Big Brother, but we find it out real quick in this first eviction, but even more so over and over as seasons go on, this is not a popularity contest. This is a contest to win $500,000. I almost said $1 million, meaning Survivor, but to win $500,000. And again, as they've noticed in the house and they're starting to pick up on, who's the threat to beat you? Is it Nicole or is it Cheryl? And in their eyes, it's Cheryl, because Cheryl, as Bunky and all them and Boogie and Will and all them have said, she's the most liked. She's probably the most liked in the entire house. So if she gets to the final two in a jury vote, Cheryl's going to win. So I really thought Kent is picking up on what this game is right away. We all love Will. We all love Boogie. We think these guys are great players, which they become great players, no doubt. But early on, Kent, Nicole, those are the ones picking up on this. It's not Will. It's not Boogie. So that has to be said. They're a little late to the party in terms of understanding how the game is being played. Next up, we got one of my favorite segments from the entire first season. Not just early on, but pretty much the entire season. It's not my favorite, but it's one of my favorite. I consider this as I said at the beginning, the birth of Dr. Will. This segment really is the first sign of it. He is He's orchestrating a fast with all the house guests. Basically, he's saying that in terms of you're in this game, and you're violating all these different types of sins, greed, sloth, all these different types of sins that they're committing by being there and being greedy and whatnot. So they want to have a voluntary fast to kind of cleanse themselves. And what is the statement? Will says basically that and it's like the editing for this segment is unbelievable. They play it up to where he's like this unbelievable mastermind. The music is great during this scene. It's real creepy and little sound effects. He's great in the DR. That sadistic smile he makes at the camera. He's just so far above everyone else in this season in the DR. It's unbelievable. What's he say? He says that if people are wondering what he thinks, he has some ability to control them, and that is so true. And we got to remember, this is early times of reality TV. Most of these players aren't thinking really about the game in any manner whatsoever, but he's not only thinking about the game, he's thinking so much farther above everyone else. In terms of, I think he's just, I agree he's really smart, so that's part of it as well, but he knew what this game was in that respect. Like I said before, he was a little confused about what the game was in terms of how the game would work, like with the whole Cheryl being the bigger threat or not being the bigger threat. I think Will was a little behind 8 ball with that. But in terms of being in this house and understanding that you can't just be a nice person, at some point you're going to have to do something evil. At some point you're going to have to lie. At some point you're going to have to backstab. Will is the only one that understands that. Everyone else is behind the 8 ball on that. And out of the things to be behind or ahead of, this is the number one thing I think. To be ahead of the times and be ahead of everyone else in the house in that regard is a huge advantage to him. And like I said, that segment was edited so unbelievably well. Then we have a goofy-ass video project that all the house guests are producing. I thought this part was unbelievably stupid, but the one thing I wanted to say is, during this, if you go back and watch this episode, or if you recently watched this episode, I'm hoping you notice this, because, God, it sticks out like a sore thumb if you notice it. They go into the stall and show Kent, and he's I don't know if he's taking a shit, or what the fuck he's doing in there, but his pants are all the way down. And I see his upper thigh, and I about had to pause the TV, turn the fucking thing off, go carve my fucking eyes out with a knife. Did they really just show this overweight old man sitting on the shitter with his pants down? What in the hell is going on? They would never do that in current Big Brother. If they did that in current Big Brother, we'd have a riot on our hands. What in the hell was that? But then we have more gross Will and Shannon stuff. I told you guys I believe it was the last review, episode 2, not a fan of this. I think that Shannon completely takes away from Dr. Will, and a big reason why I don't think Dr. Will is Dr. Will in the first couple episodes, or even for most part through the first, say, 8, 9, 10 episodes, is because Shannon's there. I think in a lot of ways Shannon's distracting Will from the game, as I'll get to in a few minutes here in this review, but I just don't enjoy the whole Will and Shannon storyline. Then we have more talking about the fast. We talk about who did it. I think it was Justin, Shannon, and Will. I don't think Boogie. I just think those three are the only ones that actually finished it. But Autumn is the only one that didn't make it like any time at all. She was eating, I think they said potato chips after like 3 hours, which Will goes on to say that like the whole point of the fast, outside of just showing that or getting himself to be able to control people, was also to see who had strong willpower and who didn't. And he says that Autumn had less willpower than anyone else, and that that's what he had thought, and it was proven correct. And then he also said that Justin had more willpower than he had anticipated. So again, I hate Autumn. I hate her in every way imaginable. Go eat your potato chips and get off the screen, please. And there is some people in the house. I think Nicole, maybe Kent. There's a few of them and Bunky. I know Bunky does. They start to notice Will is controlling this environment. I think even Autumn surprisingly makes a comment about it. But there's not much they can do about it. He is the leader. He is going to control the house, and we'll see that as it goes on. But at least for the other cast, you can say they are somewhat noticing it. But then we have Bunty. What the fuck is going on? Bunky and Kent, they have a great conversation. Again, more kind of dialogue about the whole Bunky being gay, him being afraid to tell Kent about it. But in this episode, he finally does tell him. I'm not sure what day it is in the house. It's episode 3. It's got to be within the first 10 days still. And I thought this conversation was great for the show. It was another great moment. Kent handles it really well. At first second, the first time I watched this, I thought, oh boy, this might go bad. But Kent, he likes Bunky already, which I think is it helps him not say something that he would have regretted or would have looked bad for the show. He already liked him, already had somewhat of a relationship with Bunky, so it made it easier for him to understand it. And I thought that Kent asked some good questions. I mean, the dialogue between the two I thought was really good. They hug at the end of the scene, which again, great moment for the show. I wonder if the conversation had went really bad, if they would even showed it at all. Just because I'm trying to think back to that times, like would they have wanted to show just straight up if Kent had said something really awful, called him a name, or just completely made an ass of himself, like how much the show would have actually shown. Obviously, we'll never know because it worked out well. He hugs him. They hug each other. Segment ends well. And then you have the food competition, which was an okay competition. I don't know. I don't think there's ever been like another competition in Big Brother like this one. At least not the one that I can remember. It's basically, Boogie's like in the house, and they all have to there's like 11 of them. They have to lay out on the basketball court and spell out some type of food. That's 11 letters. And then, they tell Boogie, and Boogie has to come out and has to look at it and then say what they're spelling out in a certain amount of time. He gets it done. I think it's filet mignon they spell. And so that competition wasn't all that great, but they get some food. Good for them. God, I can't wait till the seasons when the food competition cease to exist, because I do not enjoy watching these. Then we have, towards the end of the episode, we have Kent, who again is really doing well through the first couple episodes. In terms of the TV show, he's good in the diary room. He's good entertainment. And I just think he does a really good job. He's doing some work on Monica to try to help keep Nicole. He really is trying to get the point across to Monica that, look, you need to vote Cheryl out because she is more of a threat to you than Nicole is. I always have thought it was interesting, too, that, like, where's Hardy doing all this talking? I mean, maybe he did and they didn't show it, but they show Kent putting work in for Nicole. They don't show Hardy, which as the show goes on and you see who Nicole ultimately sides with more so than anyone, it's Hardy. So it's just weird to see Hardy not being the one on the front lines pushing for her to stay. It's Kent doing the work. Then we have a really good segment from this episode. We have the breakdown of Kent and Justin, who had obviously formed kind of an odd alliance at the beginning of the season. We have them have a breakdown over an argument over a pillow. Kent sitting out on the patio with, who is it? I think it's Nicole and Krista, or Nicole and somebody. And he sees Justin go in, or it's Hardy's back there. They see Justin take his pillow, which I guess was the second time that he had done that. Kent had asked him not to do it prior, but he did it again. Kent blows up, freaks out, and Justin and him get in each other's face. Justin tells him he's going to beat the shit out of him, basically. Kent throws his hands up, ready to fight. It's just a very, in terms of these two men, it's a pretty intense scene. And it's kind of funny just because I just think it's how Justin is. I think that's how he lives in his normal life. So I actually like Justin. And a lot of it's because I think he's good for the show. I don't think I'd want to live with him. And I do think he was kind of a dick here, but And he is blatantly lying, saying, "Oh, it's not the second time I've told you, Ken, or that you've told me, Ken. It's the first time." Kent's not lying. He had told him prior this was the second time. But that scene was great, and then we obviously have the end of that alliance. Kenton doesn't want to work with Justin in the future. Obviously, why would he? And then basically that's the end of the episode. So it was a great episode. One other thing I wanted to talk about real quickly was obviously I would say most people consider Boogie and Will the two greatest players from this season. Mostly Boogie for what he does in future seasons, but one thing I noticed, the big difference between the two early on, is their attitude towards Nicole, who we end up knowing ends up being really good at the game, in large part due to her self-awareness early on. But we have Will, who makes a comment, says, "Look, I'm afraid of her. I am afraid of her." He says that in the diary room for us to hear. Boogie, on the other hand, says he's not afraid of Nicole. Not afraid of her at all. And I think that's the biggest difference between the two in terms of, like, it's an example of why Will is better, especially early on at this game, than Boogie is. Will is able to look at Nicole and know she's going to be a threat in this game. Boogie can't see it. So I think that's a big difference between the two. Ultimately, though, this was a really good episode. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. If you're watching this video, I'm guessing you've seen it. But it's a really good episode. It's, in my opinion, the birth of Dr. Will. Once we get rid of Shannon, we get more consistent greatness from Dr. Will. But this was really a bright spot from him early on. But thanks for checking in, guys. I'll be back for my episode 4 review probably tomorrow. Could be today, but probably tomorrow. But thanks for checking in, guys. The episode 4 review will be coming shortly. Thanks, guys. I'm out.